Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video. Hey everybody, welcome back to Giga Texas. It's Monday, the 11th of September, 2023. And before we get into discussion about what's going on at Giga Texas, I just want to take a moment and just say that I never forget what happened on September 11th. All of the people that didn't make it home that day, all of the families that have had to continue to deal with what happened on that day, plus all of the people that served in the armed forces to defend our country. I just want to hope that you take this moment and think about what happened on September 11th, and I do appreciate you taking that time. Now, before we get into what's going on at Giga Texas, a couple of things that I want to just remind you of. Part 5 of my Corpus Christi lithium plant video came out yesterday, and it covered a lot about kilns, coolers, and the installation. Tomorrow, the last part, part 6, will come out, and I have to warn you, that one's going to be quite technical with a lot of detail about the processes that'll be used down at that site. So make sure you check that out. Here at Giga Texas, there's a couple of items that I want to talk about before we get into the video. Now, because it's September 11th, it's somewhat quieter today, plus the fact that production has basically stopped for the last couple of weeks, or for the most part of September. There's just not a lot going on today, but that doesn't mean that nothing is. On the west side, not only is the end-of-line facility received a lot more of the steel parts and part of the roof that you can see in this image, and the slabs on the south end have pretty much been poured up to this point and are curing. But farther south in that clearing area where they've been preparing the grade, we can see more of the geotextile membranes being laid out and dirt starting to be filled on top. What that means is the geotextile membranes just serve to strengthen and support the soil so that they can improve that surface for construction. The next area that I want to just go to real quickly is on the west side, the main entrance. As you can see by this image, pretty much all of that polished black stone on that trapezoidal section has been installed now, and all of the stainless steel cladding has been installed on the beams and columns as well. So they're most likely just finishing up that work, getting ready for some of the lights to be installed, and then we'll see what this looks like. It's getting pretty close to being finished. The last thing I want to show you is over on the east side of the battery cathode plant in that crash test lab. First, with this image, we get a really good look inside, and you can see where the crash wall is located, that large brown steel item. You can see that frame where the cameras, the lighting system will be installed. You can also see the pit where the cameras and other sensors are going to be located for the crash test. Now, interestingly enough, just on the outside, as you can see here, there are 2 Cybertrucks under cover, and it looks like the tonneau covers are open because of the look of the car covers on the back. These might be used here for crash testing. It is very possible. So something I'll continue to watch and we'll see, but very interesting. So as I mentioned, not a super busy day, but there is a lot more to see, and we'll talk about during the video. As always, thank you very much for your support and for watching. I do appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care. Thank you to my Patreon members and ex-subscribers. Members and subscribers gain access to hundreds of high-resolution images, previews of future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. We start today on the east side, taking a look at the multi-level parking garage construction site. Looks like a lot of gravel has been brought in, so that should start being spread around the site. You can also see how on the left-hand side, much of the graded area is continuing to take shape, get a lot more flat and defined. And also we can see that the trailers that we talked about on my previous video have in fact been moved, and now there's additional earthwork underway where those trailers were. Good view here with the zoom in, and they're going to be preparing this entire section to extend that whole graded area and allow for the construction to begin. I'll leave it on a zoom, and it gives you a good view of the east side of the factory. This is just outside of the stamping machine structure. There are a lot of interesting deliveries today, some of them on trucks, as you can see here. Many of them are wooden crates, some of which are being moved directly into that large door. And then we have some other items that have arrived on the ground, kind of those flat plate-like items wrapped up in the plastic. So a lot of activity still here on the south end. The intersection and also the paved River Road has continued to progress since my last video, and you can clearly see how River Road has that pavement going off to the west and a good view of the south end. You'll note that there are two bridge cranes here with the Tesla logos. We'll get down a little closer and see what they look like at the ground level. But I'm going to continue to fly to the west just to give you more of the view of the paving that has been completed on River Road, extending to the west, just to the south of the large Cyberpond. Also, this is a good overall view of the entire south end and how it appears today. So as I come over the power lines, I'll bring the drone down. There's a few things I want to show you. First, you can see these round concrete items. Those are covers for some of those underground well points that we've seen installed. There's some steel items that have just been delivered near where these rebar cages have been constructed and stored for some time. And then here is that close-in view of these bridge cranes. This is a dual bridge crane. The rail will sit on top with the machinery and the cabling. And this looks like it's a 30/100 metric ton set of bridge cranes. And it's interesting that they're being stored here on the south end. I'll be watching to see where those end up going. More materials on the ground for the walls. We can see how the walls themselves continue to be extended above the roof line and giving kind of a semi-permanent end of this structure view right now. You can see more of the workers on the man lifts preparing to install even more on the steel studs that have been installed. And then here's a view looking inside the structure. We can see some of the white racking mount systems, and those are used for castings. So it's interesting that they would be stored down in this part of the building. As I continue to maneuver around the south end, you can see that the continuous light auger pile drilling system is continuing to do work. It's been relocated further to the west and almost in the center of the section now, and you can see more of those cylindrical rebar cages waiting to be installed into the bores once they are drilled and filled with concrete. As I continue to maneuver over the Cyberpond, I want to give you a good look on the west side of the site. You can see that there's a lot of different kinds of materials, some deliveries. You can see these cut out rounded concrete sections. This is part of what used to be that above ground well near where this excavator is located. And you can also see it looks like there's some more rectangular excavations for concrete vaults at some point. More of the windows have been removed. You can see some of them stored on those racks at the bottom on the ground. And then they're continuing to install this yellow temporary wall along where all of that has been removed. Next to the base of this platform, we can see more concrete sections have been cut out. They're kind of in that bin next to those wooden crates. So obviously more work going on inside, and it's part of the expanding of the general assembly lines 2 and 3 at this part of the building and preparing them for full operation. More deliveries here by the accordion truck, and it looks like some more of these white and red painted platform items that are part of the actual assembly lines. And here we see a good zoom in of these carts and other kinds of items. Some people were asking if this is for the vehicles to be moved around on. I don't think so, just based on their size and their configuration, but it is they're characteristically in that white and red, so it's definitely part of the production line of some sort. This is a good view of some of these large items that have been delivered. I've had some viewers try to speculate what they think that these are. I don't know for sure. They have variety of different kinds of attachment points and shapes. So if you happen to know, let me know in the comments section. On the landscaping here, we see more of the work to install more landscaping around this area and just general maintenance. The main entry looks like all of the stainless steel has been installed now. The crews on the beams and columns are working on the electrical connections for the lighting, and the polished black stone has been completed now. And as I'll fly around, this will give you a good view of the reflections. You get a kind of a sense of just exactly how shiny this really is, and it's definitely very striking. Now, once the plywood protecting panels on the ground are removed, it'll be interesting to see how this all completes and what it will look like. It's starting to look really stunning. Near where the old temporary end-of-line facility used to be, we can see more concrete being dug out for the conduit work, and it looks like it's extending kind of in a diagonal across the street over to this particular section with the blue fences. And I'm just trying to see if this might be connected over to the new end-of-line facility. It's hard to tell from the other side of the highway, but when we get here, I don't see an exit point, at least at this point. Now, there could be horizontal drilling. I'm not sure, but we'll have to watch for that. In the meantime, we see what looks to be black HDPE pipe kind of arranged here on the north end of the building with some other materials. Also, these concrete pipe segments. And these are part of the water management system, and they've already had some extended into the trenches on the left-hand side here on this inbound lot. This gives you a good view of the steel items yet to be installed on that new end-of-line facility, and they're just waiting here until that construction project is ready for them to be installed. Development of the road on the right-hand side of the screen, plus some of the water catch basins on either side. And this is a good view of the work that's continuing to finish the grade on this section, separating the west warehouse on wheels on the right and the end-of-line facility and outbound lot on the left. A lot of geotextile membranes have been installed. Now they're starting to put the dirt on top of them. You can get a good sense of what that looks like at the kind of middle part of the screen, where a lot of the dirt's been spread on the top part, and the middle part you can see how they are rolling these textile membranes out, and then the bulldozer comes over and it puts some dirt on there. That's to prevent the wind from dislodging them before the rest of the dirt and soil is placed on top. Again, these geotextile membranes are part of the soil stabilization and strengthening to allow this new compacted dirt to support new facilities. Speaking of which, the south end of the end-of-line facility looks like the trenches are starting to be filled back in. Most of the plumbing is done, the footings are done. Now they'll be looking for the rebar for the concrete. These two sections here are in the process of curing, and this is a really good view of how much of the steel superstructure for the roof has been installed so far. And by the end of this week, I would expect to see almost the entire structure completed, at least with all of the steel. So let's get ready. Let's fly back over the highway, and we'll resume on the side nearest to the factory. One thing when I came back over to look at is these Model Ys that are kind of on display in this section here. I'll try to get you a good closer view, but I'm not sure why the new ones are being placed over here. You can see some of the labels on the two on the right, but an interesting location for some new Model Ys. There's a couple more of the security ones sitting on the right-hand side of the screen there. And then here we see more materials getting ready to be moved inside. This is the north part of General Assembly Lines 1. And also some more of these items, materials here, kind of between General Assembly Line 1 and the 4680 battery cell production section. Here's a close-in view of some of these items. I'm not exactly sure what they are, but if you happen to know, let me know in the comments. I would very much appreciate that. As I bring the drone up, kept it in a zoom format, we'll get a good chance to take a look at more of these items. I think this is still related to a conveyor belt system. We've seen a lot of other items similar to this delivered and moved inside, and this is again part of expanding the 4680 battery cell production capabilities here at Giga Texas, and some more platform items, those white items on the ground waiting to be moved inside. So let's reposition to the north end, and we'll take a look at some more activity on this part of the building. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see where the windows have been removed here, some of the cranes to be moving some items in. A lot of equipment and a lot of construction materials have continued to move through that section where they're doing some additional construction inside to increase the 4680 production capabilities. Here on the north end of the paint shop, we see some deliveries going in underneath that platform using that black and yellow ramp. And then at the bottom of the screen, more of that work on that fire water loop section that we've been monitoring for quite some time, actually. Over here, we see some steel items on the ground. It looks like there are beams and also some pipe work. As you round the corner, there's a few items on the ground that I want to give you an idea what they are. You can see those concrete blocks with kind of these tan, looks like more concrete blocks on top. What these are part of the kiln that's being installed inside, and the company is Elite Refractory Services doing the work. And the upper left gives you a close-in view of what these look like. These prefabricated panels are being installed inside the kiln. This gives you an idea on the bottom left photo of what that would look like. And this is all part of the heat treatment capability that they're installing here to melt down the scrap aluminum. And you can actually see some of that at the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And this is to recycle what is made during the castings. And here's a good view close in of what these look like on these prefabricated panels. And there's also those large bag deliveries too. I think all of this is related to the installation of the kiln that's going on inside the center bay of the casting machine structure. And here's a good view just along the entire east side of the casting machine structure and the building itself, and those rack mounts for the castings. While we're here, I'll bring the drone up over the roof. We can see the installation of these ducted fans. I think this is related to that kiln that they are installing inside, and this is a fairly robust ventilation system that they are adding to the top of the casting machine structure based on that addition of that kiln. I'll zoom in, give you a good view of what one of these ducted fans look like with the wind that's blowing. We actually see one spinning, so this is kind of how it would operate. And the crew gives you a pretty good idea of the scale of these ducted fans as well. So let's get ready to cross over Tesla Road and take a look at the Megapack site today. A lot of that gravel and that pile have been spread over here on the east side, kind of defining the roadway. We can see there's safety fences around those open manhole and vault boxes, and that's where the conduit continues through this area up to the electrical switch yard. This gives you a good view of the perimeter fence. The trenching on the right-hand side is being filled in, and it looks like still more work is underway on the wiring between the Megapacks and their accompanying transformers, and there's one transformer for every 2 Megapacks. On the north end, this steel structure with all of the electric components, the circuit breakers, transformers, and so forth, it looks like the wiring and installation of the steel looks pretty complete. Now we've seen that the concrete has been poured around the basin. This is a catch basin, so in case in the future if there were any oil leaks, which may come from that transformer, the oil is part of the cooling system. This will catch it and prevent it from going into the dirt. But it's great to see that that has now been poured, so we'll be able to see the final touches fairly soon. The north end here, we see the crews working on the conduit, taking a look at the workers next to the conduit. This gives you a good idea of how large diameter the conduit is for this portion of the Megapack, and that'll extend up to the north end of the electrical switch yard. In addition to that, proceeding to the left, you can see where more conduit goes to the south end of the switch yard. And this is a good overall view of the Megapack site. And I'll climb up and give you a bird's eye view of that as well. As we cross over the power lines, we're kind of watching where that conduit on the south end comes across over to these 2 trailer structures. And from here, I'll give you a view straight down. This gives you a good idea of the conduit installation, how it's being routed, and the relation between the conduit and these trailers. And I'll bring the drone down, give you kind of a spinning closer in view of the conduit and the work on this south end. You can also see those concrete square vaults and some of the wiring that is being done inside, at least one of them, maybe two of them, but we'll see a lot more wires going through this particular section. As I pan the drone back up, this gives you a good view of this east side where some of the materials continue to be stockpiled, but there's over time less and less as they continue to be installed. As I turn around, I'll give you another lower altitude view of this south end, the underground vault, the two control trailers, the conduit. Some of that red material is that concrete on top of the conduits, and also those concrete vaults, and just how this general area continues to take on more of a look of being nearly completed, which is great to see. Once this is done and the connections are made, they can start doing the testing of the Megapack and also the main electrical switch yard. As I complete that turnaround on over the Martin Marietta plant, I want to bring the drone down here and show you a few items of interest in this clearing right in the foreground. You can see more of the blue water pipe and some other pipe work, plus on the left a long HDPE pipe. And what they may be doing is doing some of the trench work that you see on the left for that pipe, something that I'll have to watch and see if that is in fact the case. But you can see they're doing the excavation work next to these two concrete vaults. Also, since we're in this area, the lighting is perfect, so I'm going to bring the drone down, give you a close-in view of this open section and also some of the scaffolding inside. Now, some people say that they don't think these are going to be windows. They're actually going to be a grate system, and if that is the case, we'll be able to see that hopefully pretty soon, because it looks like the framework for whatever they're going to install has been made around the windows. We also saw that that roll-up door has been installed in that large opening. This also gives you a good view at this lower altitude how much wider this section has become with all of the berm removal on the left-hand side of the screen. Also, we see a lot of work at this particular shop with looks like half a dozen pipes, and maybe they're doing some modifications to this pipe, maybe some welding right underneath those tents. You can see some of the other pipes on the ground and nearby. As I continue to fly towards the north is a good view of the remaining stainless steel corrugated pipe for that underground water management system, some other of the concrete pipe segments as well. And then here is where the permit says there's going to be a lift station installed. We can see excavation work. We can also see filling in some of the dirt around where the three vaults, the cylindrical one and the two more rectangular ones, are being completed. And as I kind of give you this close-in view, it gives you a good idea of how this looks today. And also a good view of the west side of the battery cathode plant. Also the north end, looks like all the windows, even on the corner units, have been completed. Of course, the receiving doors, that loading apron has been completed on the north end as well. Here's a good view of the east side of the battery cathode plant, the cell test lab on the lower left. A lot of the equipment and items between the wade pit and the battery cathode plant itself. Not a lot of activity on the wade pit, but we did see some work with the stormwater pipe outlet channel being completed. As I continue to get closer to the crash test lab, there's several things of note that I want to show you. First of all, you can see how this north end with the containers looks and that rotisserie. We can also see several cars, including two what appear to be Cybertrucks, maybe incomplete. It looks like maybe the tonneau cover over the rear beds are open just based on how the car covers look. But these two have been here for maybe 2 days, and these are the only Cybertrucks that I could see today, but it looks like these may be being prepared for crash testing, and that may make a lot of sense because we do know that Tesla does crash tests in many different configurations, some of which exceed the requirements from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, so they may be preparing for that. Here's a good close-in view of the work that is going on inside the crash test facility. That large brown structure, again, is the actual crash wall itself. I think it'll be relocated for the crash. You can see the pit where some of the cameras and instruments will be. As I zoom in, you can also see that frame that we think that that'll be for the cameras and lighting as well. And generally speaking, it looks like it's getting close to the point where it may be able to be used, and that may explain why the Cybertrucks are next to them. So anyway, hopefully we'll get a chance to catch a glimpse of that activity at some point in the future. On the south end, we can see these 4 large hoppers, or tanks, if you want to call them that. Some people want me to call them a cyclone. But the big things is you can see the mounts on the right with those semicircular cutouts. I think those will also serve as work platforms around, and they'll be loaded up into that second floor hopefully soon. It looks like most of the preparation work has been completed. This is a good view of the alleyway between the two structures. More trenching at the bottom for conduit. Looks like most of the trenching in the alleyway has been filled back in for now. More work on those concrete vaults in the middle section. Here is the work that's going on for this kind of a smaller structure. I don't know if it's just going to be a walled area or if it's going to be a structure built on top. And you can clearly see liquid nitrogen on the tank and the vaporizers, those shiny silver items next to it. As I get closer to this installation, I'll give you another zoom in so we get a good look at some of the plumbing and manifolds. You can clearly see that one of the tanks is listed as cathode 1, and we can see that most likely listed for all of the rest of the tanks as well. There was a tank, a small silver one for argon on the bottom, but I believe that all of the white tanks are for nitrogen. We can also see those very tall vaporizers, the stainless steel tanks, more of the work in the manifolds between that section, that large beige tank. And this is a really good view of the work going on the roof section here. I'm going to use this opportunity to give you these great views while I'm also repositioning the drone. But this is a pretty good close-in idea of the work that is going on this section of the chiller plant. Also, the Evapco cooler units, and we're still waiting to see what they're going to do with this open rectangular section on the north end. Also see more testing and pressurization of the pipes with those pumps and those adapters. I'll bring the drone up. We'll fly up over the battery cathode plant. I'll give you a different view of the crash test facility and the area between the two facilities, giving a sense of the activity that is going on here. And also I'll start to get ready to fly back towards the main factory over this section with the workshops, the trailers and materials, and also the expansion lot for the employees on the right. The East Warehouse on Wheels has a lot of trucks and trailers, but not a lot of activity today. And what's really telling is the new car outbound transportation lot. There are a few more Model Ys. Some of these I think were moved from the testing and calibration lot. You can see all of the trucks that would be transporting the vehicles are idle today, and no Cybertrucks to be seen. The end-of-line tents here look like they've been cleaned out as well. So it signals that there's probably, in addition to production pause, there's some other changes in their processes. Here's a good view at a lower altitude of the work going on to grade the section for the multi-level garage. Also a good lower end view of the wind tunnel on the right, the Rainmaker testing unit on the left with that orange door, and then just how this entire section is almost completely devoid of vehicles now. Many of them have been cleared out. Some of them may have gone to recycling if they were missing too many parts. Others may have been finished up, and we might be seeing a few of them over in that outbound lot since a couple of vehicles have been added in the last 48 hours. But otherwise, really not a lot of activity going on when it comes to production right now. Here's an interesting shot of Alpha Paving which I think is part of the company that does the work on that River Road paved work that we saw at the beginning of the video. Also, this apron is continuing to get formworks next to the receiving doors for the receiving load leveling system, and that continues to make progress. On the east side of the casting machine structure, again, a good look at those racks that are used for the castings, and just where a lot of the materials for that kiln, the refractory anchor blocks that we talked about earlier in the video, and just generally how this entire section looks today. So that'll bring it to an end for the tour around Giga Texas on this Monday, the 11th of September. I hope that you enjoyed what we talked about and that amplifying information about the kiln blocks. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and take care. And again, thank you very much for watching.